Hey, John Hardison here with you. Let's talk about one of the most difficult things in education: differentiation. Yep, I said it. Differentiation, grouping, teaming, however you chalk it up, it is tough business in education. However, we can do it. Working together, we can definitely do it. So, in this video tutorial, we're going to talk about how to quickly have a roster digitally in a spreadsheet so that you can easily show the students where they are teamed, how they are teamed. And then we're going to talk about how to quickly snippet that roster, paste it in your slideshow, which the students can view as soon as they come in. Thereafter, we're going to talk about the three ways that you can differentiate, which is content and process and product. We'll also talk about differentiating according to personalities. So buckle up. This is going to be a pretty good ride, and hopefully at the end of this, we're all clear on differentiation. And as always, if you need any help whatsoever to help you and your students rock the class, hey, call on me. Hey, let's get going.
And welcome to one of my dream classes. Please take just a few moments to peruse the students in this dream class. Hey, I know what you're thinking. Woo-wee, this could be a tough class to manage, and you're probably right. But like most colleagues I know, I would welcome that problem because there are so many talented students in this class. Now we're going to use this class as the example class as we go through this video tutorial on the three types of differentiation. But first, let's conquer a very, very important issue in education: time or lack thereof. So let's look at, first of all, we have this roster, this example roster that we would pretend that we have downloaded very quickly from Infinite Campus. It would be downloaded as an Excel file or a CSV file, a comma separated value file. You could upload it into Google Drive, or you could just keep using Microsoft Excel, either way. Now, if I have my roster right here, let's pretend that I have already put them into teams. They are in teams of 3 because I have 30 people. So as I scroll through here, you can see all 10 teams. And let's do this in real time in a way to quickly get our students organized as they walk into class, not 5 or 10 minutes after class begins. So here we are. Let's go up here. Let's alphabetize this. Bam. All right. Let's go ahead and cut the bottom 15. Cut that right here and paste it at the top so it looks nice and neat. And now I can go to my snippet tool. And I'm just going to quickly grab a screenshot of this, right click on that, copy, go here to my slide that I use when students come in. I'm going to paste that snippet that I just did, and I can drag it out to make it look much better. And then of course when I would go to present and the students walk in, they would see how to get into their teams, how to get the Chromebook, start on their warm-up, and then they will see the learning targets and the standards. And so very efficiently, very quickly, they are ready to rock and roll for the differentiated assignment that I have before them. So just before we take a look at differentiation, let's make sure that we're thinking clearly about the learning targets. We're looking at a document created by Dr. Carey for our ELA department, and just take a look at this excellent example of learning targets that have different levels. So we're looking at this particular learning target, and it says analyze seminal U.S. documents, that particular one. And then notice knowledge, reasoning, performance skill, and product, different varying levels of this learning target. And what is so good about this is, please look at the words in red, the verbiage that is used to denote knowledge: recognize, explain, identify, reasoning, evaluate, performance skill, investigate, compare and contrast, and then finally, the one we want to get our students to, this one is product, which would show the highest form of learning, which would be creativity. So this particular one, they will create a product, and it doesn't say what kind of a product, it just simply says a product. So excellent example, and hopefully we can all be thinking clearly about our learning targets before we assign and before we differentiate for our students. So let's look at 3 ways to differentiate. Now at the top of this slide you have a title, 3 ways to plan for diverse learners, what teachers do. And at the bottom you have a flashing red arrow that indicates a short URL to a blog post from Edutopia that is very helpful. Now it by no means is the holy grail of differentiation research. It just happens to be a good blog post where we got this image from. And we have given credit to John McCarthy at the bottom of this image. So 3 ways that teachers differentiate, and it is content, process, product, or learning artifacts. And so again, how are the teachers giving access to the students for this content? What type of strategies or what type of teaching activities do they have to walk them through the process of engaging with this assigned material? And then ultimately at the end, what evidence are the students showing that they have mastered the assigned content? So what are the products? What are the learning artifacts? And then look to the right. Please remember that we'll be taking into consideration readiness, the current skill levels of these students. We'll be looking at formative data to see how they will be placed into their teams, how they'll be placed in maybe individual assignments, how they'll access the content, and maybe even how they'll give us a product or a learning artifact. And then of course you have interest, the choices and the backgrounds, and then you have learning profiles or brain intelligences. Now of course make sure you throw in there personalities. Personalities are very, very big, and we'll be looking at some of these as we go through this video tutorial. All right. Let's look at content differentiation through the eyes of a history teacher. We're also going to throw in a little process differentiation. So let's say the teacher wants them to get started with their Civil War unit by looking at some different pieces of content about the Civil War. So the teacher has chosen a 360 video, a crash course video on YouTube from John Green, an excerpt of a short story, Owl Creek Bridge, and then a trivia or quiz. Here are those artifacts. Right here, here's the 360 video, and then here is John Green's video, and then the short story, and then a quiz. Now these students are going to begin class doing a KWL chart. What do they know, want to know, and then later they'll fill in learned. So let's go back to our roster. The teacher has already assigned these students 360 video, crash course, short story, or trivia. And this could be done either by teacher's discretion, or maybe it could even be done by student choice. But right here, let's just go ahead and move forward. So let's look at the next tab. And here are your teams. Now here's where the process differentiation comes in. Take a look here. Since we have 30 people, you will have 2 teams of 5 and the rest will be of 4. But for example, in this team right here, team number 1, you have 2 people looking at the trivia or the quiz, 1 on 360 video, 1 on the crash course YouTube video, and then 1 on the short story. And then this teacher is going to have them basically do a round robin discussion after they have looked at these artifacts that relate to this Civil War content. So again, look down through here, look at the students and the teams. This would be excellent. Now don't forget that what would happen is you could take this right here and you could again do a new one here. Here is how you would set it up in class. And then we go right here. This should be history right here, bam, paste it in, and then don't forget all you would do is show that up on the screen as they come in. So there you go. Through the eyes of a history teacher, content differentiation with also process differentiation. Very, very good setup. Here's a content differentiation example through the eyes of a science teacher. So maybe the students have submitted how they want to go through some content about, let's say, simple organisms. And so the students submitted maybe a Google form, what they wanted, and the teacher is offering them the Bozeman Science channel on YouTube, CK12 online textbook, the interactive reader that accompanies the original textbook, and then of course just the textbook. So there would be some content differentiation, and of course if you wanted to, you could take these students and you could go through and you could put them into teams or partners, and then you could really even differentiate according to process depending on what you did. Maybe you did a think, pair, share, maybe you did some journaling, maybe you simply did some rotational stations, but that could be how they would process the information that they have read from these different artifacts of content. Here's an example of content differentiation with a little bit of product differentiation through the eyes of a math teacher in regards to the quadratic formula. So the teacher has taken the skill levels, maybe from some formative or summative assessments of these students, and grouped them into low, medium, and high. And so the teacher wants them to ultimately know how to graph the quadratic formula. So with these low students, the teacher is asking them to graph the equation. So this teacher will give those students just the equation. And then for the medium level students, they are going to be asked to write the equation. Therefore, they'll be given the graph. And then finally, your high-level students who are doing very well with this, they are going to be asked to create a graph, and all they're going to be given would be the guidelines and the criteria. So just capping this off right here, remember that your content here would be how you give them access to this information, to the content, and then the product would be what are they producing to show that they have evidence of actual learning. Now, not to make this confusing, but if you wanted to make this even process differentiation and just totally wow everybody, you could do that by placing them into teams, using strategies that would help them process this information as they maybe did KWLs, think, pair, share, rotating stations, each one teach one. You could go on and on and on with the ways that you would have them process this. But for now, let's just at least look at how the skill levels were assessed, and then the content was differentiated, and then ultimately the students showed various artifacts of mastery of the standards. And of course, there are endless ways to differentiate according to process. And here are some examples right here. As you look at these, be thinking of how you could simply do these as you're delivering your lesson within a day or two of your classes. So maybe you are going through some content in a Spanish class, history, science, English, whatever it may be, and maybe after you chunk a little bit of the reading or the discussion or the notes, you stop and do a Freire model. Or later on you stop, think, pair, write, journal, illustration, sentence stems, agree or disagree, sketch notes, pass quiz, meet and greet, word association, role playing. It is absolutely endless. But just remember, you could be doing this with the whole class as you walk through your notes and your reading and your studies. You could stop and have the class process the information that you've just given them in many of these ways, and of course many, many more. And don't forget that educational technology such as Nearpod and other gadgets can really make this so much simpler and at the same time give you great formative data. And please remember the many interactive learning structures we can implement to use process differentiation. We know about the fishbowl discussion. We've also done the fishbowl discussion with a hot seat here. The Socratic seminar, 4 corners. We could go on and on and on. And then we have a list of original ones done here at East Hall High School, ABCD Foundational, the chosen ones, the blender, the trifecta, the voting chips, all game-based to some extent and competitive. You have the Wax Museum, and then you have Flip Forum, the Front Porch, Smartphone and Seismograph, the Square, Slow Jam the Poem, or Slow Jam the Math Problem, or Slow Jam the News, 90-second recap. We have all kinds of learning structures we can implement that are easy for process differentiation. And of course, we have these applied to math also. All right, so now we delve into product differentiation. Now, if we're being honest here, process and product differentiation are often intertwined. They're very closely related. So when we look at product differentiation, this is just a slideshow of some ideas that you could use to show that you absolutely have your students on the right path because of the evidence, the artifacts they have created. Graphs, apps, drawings, essays, videos, movie trailers, commercials, newscasts, tableaus, photography, slideshows, digital creations, songs, raps, acting skits, debates, comic speeches, dry erase video tutorials, screencasts, and on and on and on. We even have, if you are interested, a menu for students' choices. So if students say, hey, this is how I want to show you that I understand your content that you have assigned, we can give them this slideshow and we would customize it to math, science, CTAE courses, whatever you need. We can customize this. This one was done for a World Lit assignment. That's why you see archetypes and themes. However, run through it with me quickly and you'll see that we even have this contract based. So when you click here, you go to a contract, and the coolest thing about this is the students have to sign and agree and even write a proposal and then ultimately follow through on what they say. So this can be tailored to meet whatever you need. And of course, this would produce some products that the students have created. You simply sign your name to the standards you want created. They sign their names to what they're going to show you. It is awesome. So let's go back to this and look. We have this particular menu growing all the time, and we have it green lighted, yellow lighted, and red lighted according to difficulty levels. So as you go through symbolic art, scrapbook, flipbook, digital story, comic book, Google slideshow that's not boring, that has multimedia embedded. And then you have Whose Line Is It Anyway skits, raps and songs, music, newspaper articles, puppet shows, talk shows. We've even had fashion shows, dry erase animation. Yes, we're creating those types of animated videos that you see on YouTube where they're drawing so fast you can hardly keep up. And then we have movie trailers and mini movies, and then we're just looking for other ideas. The more students give us ideas, the more we put them on this menu. So excellent, excellent ideas for products, and we can make it happen if you have some ideas. Now, the next thing we want to look at right here is we want to look at putting some teams together. Let's say we put some teams together and we take this group in blue and we look at personalities. So we look at personalities and kind of what they're into, and we go through here and we make them the A's. I'll show you what I'm getting to in just a minute. And then we take some other like personalities to the best of our ability and make them the B's. And then we also take the final ones, the final 10, and make them the C's. So what we would do is we could even go to a structure that I mentioned just a little while ago called the blender, an original structure in which 3 people are at each one of these tables. So you would have 30 students, 3 people at each table, and just a reminder, you would have them separated like this. So here's your first team, A, B, and C. Here's your second team, A, B, and C. Here's your third team, A, B, and C, on and on and on. So you see that they would be seated at those particular marked tables. And yes, there would be a sign on those tables that says 1, A, B, C, D, and students would know exactly where to sit, so that when you rotated the A's or the B's or the C's from one table to the next to mix up your personalities, to mix up your teams, you would still be keeping some of the like personalities. So a very good way to organize that. Let's also look back here at the various things you would do in something called the blender. You have the smartphone app. Students create a smartphone app based on the assignment you have given them. Number 2, children's toy, video game, or board game. 3 and 8 are very different. Look at 3 and 8. You have to debate, and we have a structured and timed debate for teams 3 versus 8, and we would have to just give them the assignment and give them the topic. Team number 4 is going to produce a song, a quickly written song, maybe 10 or 15 or 20 lines, or they can pick multiple songs that have already been created that relate to their understanding of their answer to the assigned prompt. Movie trailer is team 5, team 6 is acting, team 7 is historical, current event, anything that relates to the answer that has been assigned. And then skipping 8, since we've talked about that, number 9, they have to create an original class activity that everyone would do, and they would relate that to the answer. And then 10 is a new sport. A lot of times they just kind of sport mash, if you will, and create a variation of many sports that relate to the assigned prompt. Now let's just think about one thing right here. This could be differentiated according to content, process, and product. Yeah, you heard me, the trifecta. And so what you could do is if you gave, say, teams 1 and 2 certain content. Maybe if you're reading something, you gave them a couple of pages that they have to answer a prompt according to those pages. And then say 3 and 4 and 5, and maybe even team 8, since that's a debate team, you give them some more content, some different content. And then 6, 7, maybe 9 and 10, you give them some different content so that every team is getting a little bit of something different just about, and you're still moving forward in covering your content. Now, if you gave just the same question or the same content to everybody, that would be fine also. But please remember that sometimes when you're doing creative things like this, it slows things down just a bit. So if you chunk or piece the content that you're giving out, you're still going to cover a lot, and you're going to cover it in a very engaged way. So there's your content differentiation, and then obviously your process differentiation comes in where everybody is doing something a little bit different and something very challenging on a different level. And then ultimately your product differentiation comes out because you have asked them to create a different product. And the entire time, after each rotation and after each presentation, you can do what you want with your teams, and you can move them around and keep the like personalities.
Bam! Back at you right here with a little bonus. So many of us use traditional and or digital tools to evoke formative feedback to drive tomorrow's lessons and discussions. So in this little segment here, I want to focus on about 10 digital tools that will help you elicit formative feedback so that you can rock the class tomorrow. First off is the State Longitudinal Data System in Infinite Campus. Boy, this is powerful, especially when you start the year off by going through this data, the EOC scores, whatever else is in there, and looking at all that data and then maybe even differentiating in day one. That's definitely going to give you a leg up for the entire year. Number 2 is Canvas. Hey, let's not just talk about Canvas quizzes and the data that that can give you. Let's also talk about just the submissions, whether they're linked to Google Drive or they're text-based or whatever it may be. Students are also giving you feedback there and letting you know how you're doing. And then discussions are very, very popular in Canvas. And just look at these students and how they tell you where they're headed, what they've learned, and what they need to learn. So Canvas. And then number 3, one of my favorites, maybe one of my top 3 or 5, and then is Nearpod. So Nearpod can do so much. So many people are going to that, and rightfully so. Hey, you can do surveys. You can have constructed responses. You can draw on the computer. You can do some 3D, some virtual reality. You can do quizzes. You can go on and on and on with this. So about 10 or 12 activities, if I remember correctly, in Nearpod. And please remember that you can upload your slides, you can create your slides. And in my opinion, Nearpod gives the best formative feedback in the form of polished PDFs with graphs and charts. It is amazing. It's the real deal. So check out Nearpod. Number 4, Google Forms. Hey, I facetiously tell people a lot of the times I say Google Forms can save everything but maybe your marriage. Obviously, all jokes aside, Google Forms is that awesome. If you have any questions about Google Form, we really need to sit down for about 20 to 30 minutes because there's so much that Google Forms can do. So just trust me on that. And if you want to take a look at some video tutorials and get going, or if you need some help from me or somebody else, let's show you what Google Forms can do, and we can get you set up with a form in about 5 minutes that you can use in your class right after that. Next off is Socrative. Socrative's been around such a long time, bought by Mastery Connect, and rightfully so they should have, because Socrative is very cool. If you just simply want to have a quiz and have it be graded, if it's multiple choice, maybe even fill in the blank, then you can do that with Socrative, and the data is right there in real time. So check that out. Mastery Connect, an extension of Socrative. Like I said, they bought them, and of course Mastery Connect is like Socrative on steroids. Woo! And then next up is Flipgrid. Hey, this is one of my favorites too. Definitely in my top 3, especially if you use Flipgrid creatively. So students just get on Flipgrid and they record videos of their responses. Now those videos don't just have to be right here and talking to the camera and robotic and boring like. They also can be creative skits and presentations, and they can really rock the class with Flipgrid. And then you can put rubrics in Flipgrid. You can have students attached to other documents, essays, and other artifacts artifacts of learning, and then you can send students feedback on Flipgrid. And then, of course, the most powerful thing is Flipgrid. You can flip it back and have all the students go watch all the other students' presentations, in essence, making all the teachers or all the students the teachers. So Flipgrid is absolutely awesome. And Padlet. Padlet started out as just a digital sticky board, sticky notes, whatever you want to say, pin cushion, if you will. And now it has grown into so much more. You can have back channels and you can have various other things. Padlet is a free site. You can use up to 5 so-called Padlets. All I do is when I reach my max of 5, I just go delete another one and then I move forward. But this would be great for a ticket out the door where students just quickly post artifacts or post where they are or what they understand. And then as you'll see, you can link to videos and other documents. You can just make it so cool. And then as the students walk out, you're looking right there at that one digital pin cushion, corkboard, whatever you want to call it, and you see the students' responses. Very, very cool. Padlet. Next up is Plickers. Hey, Plickers, just imagine taking your phone or iPad and holding it up, and as you scan your students, it is going boop, 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 and it's giving you the data as the students submit that. Now you're wondering what is on the student side? Well, the students are holding up a kind of like a QR code, and depending on how they hold it, it represents A, B, C, or D, or true or false. And so as they hold that up and you ask them how they understand the answer to that prompt, you just go around and it gives you data in about 10 seconds. And yes, we have teachers doing that here, and they're rocking it pretty cool with Plickers. Quizlet and Quizlet Live. Yes, there's Kahoot, there's Quizlet, there's Quiziz, and I'm going to mention all these right now. But if I had to say so, the thing that I have seen the most engagement with, it almost gets a little bit vicious as a competitive thing. But when you see Quizlet Live and you see teachers who are using Quizlet Live to have students engage in teams and discuss the prompts and the standards, you'll see what I'm talking about. It gets very competitive. Sometimes it gets heated, but it always moves in the direction of learning. So try Quizlet Live, and then don't forget Kahoot and of course Quiziz. And then the final one right here is polleverywhere.com. Now, polleverywhere.com has been around, I want to say, about 8 years when the actual phones came through and they were just texting phones, not smartphones. Poll Everywhere said, hey, let's invite them in, and you can have students text their replies, their answers, their surveys. You can have them do constructed responses. It is really cool to elicit some feedback. So, for example, if you just maybe don't have enough Chromebooks and you just want to use their phones, you can set up a poll very quickly through polleverywhere.com and have the students do an exit ticket out the door that gives you formative feedback. Now, again, I've just mentioned about 10 or more here, and we know there are so many more. The biggest problem we have, I guess, in education now is we have so much educational technology to go through. But hopefully this will get you started. And again, if you need anything whatsoever, please call on me. We can make this happen. All right. Thank you all. See you.